He doesn't take points early, goes and gambles when they're up 7-0, could be 10. There's 12 penalties in the game. I put that on the coach. Good teams, well-coached teams don't have all these penalties. Now, a couple, which were instrumental in the game, according to Buck, to Aikman, and to their official analyst, there were a couple of bad calls against the Bears that shouldn't have been called, and that affected the game a bit. But all these, 6 pre-snap penalties, those aren't questionable. Those happened. He had a very stupid challenge, cost him a timeout, which was costly at the end of the game. I think there was some very shaky play calling in the second half. All this short stuff, let the guy throw. He's got an arm. And after the first drive, I hate to say it, maybe he let him throw long because he was so off target. He hit 10 of his first 10 passes. After that, he threw at a 29% accuracy rate. I'm gonna make this way too early judgment, but I really believe it to be true. In the draft a couple of years ago, J.J. McCarthy, by the way, was in that. I think he was 12th, and he looked like the better quarterback last night, and in the fourth quarter anyway. But Jaden Daniels went second behind Caleb Williams. Bears could have taken either. They took Caleb. That was the choice of the moment. I don't believe, I hate to say this, I don't believe that Caleb Williams will ever be as good as Jaden Daniels. I just don't. I don't think he sees the field as well or as quickly. Caleb is not as accurate as Jaden Daniels. He can run as well as Jaden Daniels. Maybe Jaden's a little quicker, to be honest. Caleb is good enough to get out of trouble, but really and truly, I think if you redrafted that, if you were the Bears, would you not take Jaden Daniels over Caleb Williams? Landon Schmidt, I ask you that question.
I'd 100% take Jaden. I mean, I think there was a lot of hype, obviously, coming out of college with Caleb Williams, but in the 2 years, and granted, this was, week one of Caleb Williams with a new offensive coordinator, new head coach, so trying to get, adjusted to this new Bears offense, but still, I mean, I think he had some moments where he looked good. I think he delivered the ball a little bit quicker. He was sort of seeing the field a little bit better, way better than last year.
But he missed so many guys with his initial reads and Aikman kept pointing it out. Oh, there's Ben Johnson shaking his head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I thought Johnson was very mediocre. Really. I mean, I think you got to put penalties on him.
Mm-hmm.
I think the challenge, which cost him a timeout, that was never even close.
No,
I don't know who told him to challenge that. Mm-hmm. He did it right away before there was even time to check the replay. And then his play calling to me was shaky. He's supposed to be this creative genius. That was a bad start because they had the lead. They dominated the first 2.5 quarters of that game. They never were able to punch through. They have I think it's an 11-point lead, and they're on the 20-yard line, and they get backed up out of field goal range. They didn't take points early. He opted, on a 4th and 3 when they had 3 points in the bag, not to take it. I don't know what it is, but you're right. It's way too early, but that to me, it looked like the same thing all over that I've watched with the Bears for all these years. The Vikings, they came through. McCarthy was terrible in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
Threw a pick six, looked lost. He couldn't find anybody. Got sacked a couple of times. And then in the fourth quarter, he looked like the guy that won a national championship. And that's something Caleb had never done either. And not saying that I would draft McCarthy over Caleb Williams, but I am saying I would take Jaden Daniels for sure. All right. We got a busy show. Steve Ehret's going to join us here in a couple of minutes, as he always does in the business of the Bulls. I don't know if you saw this, but the guy that writes for USA Today now, college football, now that Dan Wolken's gone, he does projections of the Bulls all the time now. And he's got Memphis and Florida, by the way, in the Gasparilla Bowl early. I think it's December 19th. That would be interesting. He's got Tulane in the playoffs, and he's got TCU and Missouri in the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. I still think Memphis has a chance to make the college football playoff. We'll talk about that with Jonah Dillon last segment of the show. And, of course, in the middle, Ron Higgins on the SEC, and Florida is at LSU, and this could really be the beginning of the spiraling downfall of Billy Napier. We'll get into all of that. We'll also get in with Steve Earhart. The Touchdown Club had Mac Brown last night. He's made some statements about separation of the college football bowl division and the group of five. And I don't agree with it, but we'll get into that with Steve Earhart. Two quick notes here. The Memphis-Arkansas basketball exhibition game for St. Jude on the 27th. Tickets go on sale today at noon. Now, according to Chris Boysen, I've heard him say 2,000 tickets have already been sold before it went to the public. And I think those were options first for Memphis season ticket holders, then Arkansas ticket season holders. 2,000 tickets are already gone, and many of them to Arkansas. So if you're a Memphis season ticket holder, you got a couple hours to grab your seat, or it'll be gone when the public sale goes open. He's hoping for more than 10,000. I'd be surprised if there weren't 15,000 for this game. They're going to honor all of the players of the Calipari era. If you want to get in, there's going to be a dinner the night before on the 26th of October at the Peabody, and that'll be a fun event. All these guys coming back, you can mingle and tell stories with, and then the game will be on Monday. Last note, before we join up with Steve Earhart, the Ryder Cup tickets, I guess, are on secondary markets now. Landon Schmidt, do you know how much they are?
On a scale of 1 to 10, how absurd are we talking?
We're talking expensive. Give me a guess. How much for the Friday round? This is not the singles on Sunday. This is Friday opening round. How much?
I'm going to start the bidding at $5,000.
Oh, wow. You got a lot of money. No. 14. I thought it was $1,400 a ticket was a lot. Because you always buy two, right?
Right.
That's almost $3,000.
Yeah.
$5,000. Would you pay $5,000?
No, absolutely not.
Would you pay $1,400?
I'd need a strong case to do so.
I'm going to say this. I'm too cheap to do that, and you can see it better on TV. But I am told by people, and I've never covered it. I've covered majors. I am told that the greatest sporting event that they have ever seen, and they've seen prize fights, they've seen Super Bowls, World Series, All-Star games. I've covered all three of those. That the Ryder Cup is the most spectacular fan event to see. And I guess so. And you know what? They're gonna get their $1,400 a ticket.
Yeah.
There's enough people who love it that will pay to see it. But that's the price in the year 2025. The price is a lot better if you want to play golf at a Memphis public golf course. That's right. You know it's a great amenity to have great golf courses, and the city of Memphis has certainly done that. You think about all the redos, starting with Galloway many, many years ago, now Pine Hill, and, of course, Audubon. They're spectacular. Audubon's going to have NCAA tournaments on it. There are some holes there, like the 18th. I just love that hole. That is a picturesque challenge. It really is. They have made that a big boy golf course. Then there's Overton, which they redid. That was sort of private entity that did that, the people that did Sweetens Cove. It's gorgeous. Public golf now has, by the way, driving ranges at Audubon, which is always busy, and at Pine Hill. They take care of you with Memphis Golf. And they got an app and a website, Memphis Public Links. Go to that to make all of your tee times. It's that simple. And, frankly, to get all the info, because every course has a championship. There are tournaments. You get updated. There are new deals. You can buy memberships in Memphis Public Golf. Go check it out. Memphis Public Golf. memphispubliclinks.com. All right, let's head cross town, check in with our good friend, the Big Cheese, the head honcho of the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. That would be Steve Earhart. Would you take TCU, Missouri right now? Because that's exactly what USA Today has for you.
Yeah, there's all kinds of prognostications this early in the season. But, yeah, we haven't had TCU in some time, and we had Missouri, about 5, 6 years ago when they had Drew Lock there, and they brought a nice crowd to Memphis. So, but there's a lot of combinations. I see LSU popped up on somebody's prognostication. We haven't had them in 40 years.
You're not getting. Let me just make a bold prediction right now. You're not getting LSU. LSU is going to be in the championship hunt.
All right, we'll give you that. But that SEC is pretty strong, and of course, Jan Gwynn, our friend, he called me yesterday. Are you taking Mississippi State right now that they've won 2 games and maybe they'll get bowl eligible here? But yeah, it's unbelievable in the SEC and the Big 12 both, like with Mississippi State beating Arizona State. And I think, Dave, you've talked about this on your show. It's so different this year with so many new players. When Mac Brown last night was talking about the great Hall of Fame coach when he won national championship with Texas, but at North Carolina they have 72 absolutely new players on their roster, and many other teams. It's just unpredictable now when you're putting a team together. You don't have the veterans, juniors and seniors that have been there for 3 and 4 years. So it's really wide open this year, and that makes it exciting. Just look at the University of Memphis here and your game you called last week. I mean, a lot of new players that Memphians are getting to know and appreciate them, and so it's a brand new situation now with college football, and it's exciting, and maybe there'll be many more upsets, much like what Florida State did or what Mississippi State did.
Since you mentioned Mac Brown last night, and there's a few little different ways I want to go with this, but let's start with, did he ever talk about how he interviewed for I know he was a receivers coach here, but did he ever talk about the interview that he had to become a head coach when the Tigers took Ray Dempsey from Southern Illinois University, who had won a national title? They chose him over, amongst some other big names too, over Mac Brown. Did he mention that at all?
He did not mention it. He certainly mentioned when he was here as a very young coach. I think you hit it right. 1978, would that be right, when Richard Williamson was the head coach? And so he was very, aggressive in pursuing. He wanted to be a head coach, and so he took various jobs there as he kind of walked up the ladder. He wanted to learn from the great coaches like Shem Beckler and Tom Osborne and so on. And he said that's why he moved around so much, because he wanted to learn from all the great coaches. And he told some nice stories about how he used to get really upset at halftime of games when his team was behind. It was interesting the way he pointed out. And one time he said he was throwing chairs and stuff and said, you guys hadn't played like hell in the first half and better get that there and kick. You're playing terribly. And then he said Barry Switzer told him, he said, look, maybe what you should do is change your approach, and when your team's down and behind at halftime, you should pick them up, and instead of yelling at them and saying how bad they played, is talk about, hey, we're going to win this game in the second half. So he said that was his he turned around, and he told the stories about how when they won the national championship, when they would get behind in a couple of games, he would pump them up rather than being angry at them. So it was an interesting coaching approach. But he did not talk about whether he had an offer from the University of Memphis to be the head coach here.
He also suggested, and I vehemently disagree with this, he said there's only 10 to 12 teams because of finances, and I don't necessarily disagree. I think the number's a little bit more than 10 to 12, that can viably win a national title. Well, I don't know if it always comes down to money, but usually it does. But he made the point that he thinks the group of 6, because that's what the Pac-12 is going to be next year in that group, that they should have their own separate playoff, their own separate Heisman. And I'm thinking to myself, you got a seat at the table. People care enough. We keep an eye on that. It is a marketing tool to keep programs interested. And, on some lucky years, there might be 2 that get in. If there's a great Mountain West or Pac-12 team, and the American has the better champion 2 might get in. It could happen. Probably slight, but it could happen. But you're going to get 1, and everybody's going to be focused on that. And the race to get to there makes it interesting all year. If you did your own playoff, he goes, I'd love to see Boise and Memphis play. Who else would? Nobody would care. It would be just like the FCS, which we used to know as 1AA. No one watches their playoffs. No one cares about their Heisman. They got their own. Nobody cares about that. And that's what would happen if you separated the group of 6 from the regular college football playoff.
Well, Dave, I think your premise is accurate. However, the context of which Coach Brown said last night was a little bit different. He was saying that in the context of the fact that if the Big Ten and the SEC break away and form their own NFL-style of league, which has been rumored and talked about, and certainly the big guys. But he was talking about if say, 20 to 40 teams broke away from what we call now both the Football Bowl Series or the NCAA, football, and then there would be only an NFL-style playoff of, say, 32 teams, and then the rest of the teams would have to band together and have their own deal. So that would include maybe the bottom half of, say, the Big Ten and the bottom half of the ACC and so on, because one of his predictions was with the way the money is flowing, can a Wake Forest, a school, and I'm not picking on Wake Forest, but small school like that doesn't have the power of, say, an Ohio State. And so I hear your point that, yes, I do not think that would work if you ended up saying, okay, the group of 6, so to speak, is separate from the Power 4. But his point was if the Power 4 ends up squeezing down and that now it's a Power 2 or it's a mini NFL-style situation. So I think that was the context that I took away from what he was talking about.
We mentioned a little earlier TCU and their former coach, OC, Justin Fuente, is going to be in the news today because I think they're going to announce he's going to become a senior advisor of the college football playoffs. Now, this is not selection. Really? No, this is like working day-to-day and things of that nature. I always found Justin, who, in my opinion, he's the guy most responsible for the Tiger culture change to winning. Because you had always been a fairly mediocre program. You had some moments. But for the most part, it took a long time and a lot of droughts and Larry Porter's disaster for the Tigers to choose a guy who turned out to be terrific in Justin Fuente. He's the guy, in my mind, that changed everything, opened the door for Norvell, and now for Silverfield. And since then, the culture has been a winning culture as one of the best teams out of the group of 5. There's no doubt about it. You can tie that to Fuente. And personally, I always found him one of the most interesting coaches that I know. He was intellectually a very interesting guy to talk to. I think he's going to do a great job. I don't know totally the job description, but whatever it is, I believe Fuente would be good. Your thoughts?
Well, that's breaking news right here on your show here. I did not know that. I had not heard that, but you hit it right on the head there. A very intellectual kind of type of guy, thoughtful. He wasn't the warm and fuzziest kind of guy, but he was very smart, very dedicated, very businesslike, and so I would agree with you that I think he'll do a good job at whatever he does now. And I wish that he would have stayed another year or two here, but the coaches want to move on, and we all understand that. But that's great news, and I think he'll do a good job. And I think he always was thoughtful about the University of Memphis and did an excellent job. And you're right, since Justin was here, and he had to make a lot of culture changes because remember how Tommy West used to rail about how Memphis was they were really involved in football but dedicated to basketball, and now I think there's an equal emphasis on both programs. Both football and basketball are rated very strongly, and as Memphis has said, the last year they were one of the very few universities in the country that had a top 25 football program and a top 25 basketball program. So, yeah, that's good news. Hope Justin gets a good opportunity, and he'll do a great job.
No question in my mind. All right, you were in Atlanta. You saw the Tigers in Georgia State. Your thoughts?
I thought it was great adjustments at a halftime, and I know Coach Silverfield talked about that a little bit, whether it was psychological or whether it was some pressuring the passer. But that first quarter was kind of scary there. But whether they moved some safeties, I didn't study it closely enough when they took away a lot of those crossing routes that were giving the Tigers trouble in the first. But that's good coaching there, that they could turn that around on the road. And I think they got the wake-up call of watching that Troy film there with Troy playing pretty good ball game there in Clemson. So this will be a real good test this weekend at Troy and getting ready for Arkansas. But now they will not overlook Troy. So it was actually probably a good thing that Troy played so well there against Clemson on the road. So, but yeah, I was impressed. I think the quarterback, very businesslike, not making mistakes, doing the right things, which is what they need. And I tell you, I'm a huge fan of Smith, Sutton Smith, number 5. I mean, he's a game breaker kind of guy. He can make the big plays there. And Dave, DeRosier, is he going to be able to come back?
I think I think he'll come back, but I don't know when. I don't know if it'll be this week. I would suspect it would be more like Arkansas. They may hold him out until the conference games. He was in a walking boot when he went on the field in Atlanta for the coin toss because he's a captain. Yeah. So he's clearly not ready. All right, explain this to me because I know it was a big week for the American. You made that point to me in an earlier conversation. Army. How in the world do they lose to Tarleton State, which I didn't even know where it was, and then beat Kansas State at Kansas State?
Yeah, and that's what college football is. It's so up and down this year, unpredictable. And Kansas State, a good, solid team. And who would have guessed? I think that may be the biggest upset of the year. Because I know Army lost their really good running back from last year, but I think culture and psychology, and, when you play a service academy team, you're going to get excellent, execution, not a lot of mistakes. They'll just play steady at you, keep coming and coming and coming. And so when you make a few mistakes against the service team, just like what Memphis did last year when they went in there, had the lead at Navy, and then boom, all of a sudden Navy dropped the bombs on them. So, again, huge upset there. And I think it shows the quality of the league, and with Army winning on the road at a big-time Big 12 team, and with South Florida winning down there, Tulane's already proven they beat a Big 10 team, so it portends well. And I think for all your listeners out there, I mean, I think you should talk with more respect those people that say, well, we got to get out of the American, we can't survive in American. We need to build that league up a little bit, and Memphis has a great schedule this year with the university hosting South Florida, Tulane, and Navy all here on the home schedule. That's a great schedule and an exciting schedule, and teams that'll be very competitive on the field. So, yeah, big year, big weekend for the American, and it should get better. And if Memphis takes care of business the next couple of weeks, they'll be right up there with an opportunity to play in the playoff system.
I don't think people really are down on the American Football League as much as they are the Basketball League. It is it's the best of the group of 6. That football league is the best of the group of 6. All these teams still being Navy still in the mix. Obviously Memphis is, and the one team, in my estimation, the biggest upset at this point would be USF, either against Boise or really Florida because they were higher ranked. But that's 2 ranked teams they've beaten. One on the road in the Swamp. We'll see what they do against Miami, but I think that's the team. I was surprised that Tulane was the team that was in the USA Today's Writers tournament making the playoff, because I would have USF in there at this point because their fate's in their own hands. If they keep winning, nobody is going to knock them out at this point. Steve Earhart, as always, we appreciate it. Go ahead.
I was just going to say quarterbacking is the name of the game, and USF has an outstanding quarterback who can make big plays. So whether they get by Miami or not, be aware of USF. No question about that.
Steve Earhart, Big Cheese, head honcho of the AutoZone Libertyville. We'll talk to you next Tuesday. Thank you much, my friend.
Thank you, David.
That is Mr. E's, brought to you in part by Ken Garland Custom Home Builders. You want that dream home? They've been doing it for almost 80 years now, on third generation Garland. First there was Ken Sr., Ken Jr., Williams now in the business. They all see little details and the big picture all at the same time, exactly what you want from a contractor, I can tell you that. And if you go to kengarland.com, you'll see all the beautiful homes they have built over all these years throughout the Memphis Metroplex. It's gorgeous. Or you could get a renovation. You don't want to leave your beautiful lot. You love it. You're comfortable there, but you want modern amenities. They'll put the movie room in. They'll put the California closets in, the island with the kitchen, with the granite cabinets. They do granite tops. They do it all. Renovation with innovation. Dream homes, you need land, they can find it. You're not sure how to utilize land, they know exactly how. With 3 generations and the job is never done, they're with you the whole way and longer. That's Ken Garland, Custom Home Builders. We head to Baton Rouge. Our SEC historian Ron Higgins on what happened last week and what's coming this week. That's next on Waldo and Friends.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10, right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Moving is stressful, but Black Tie Moving can take the worry out of the process. Whether you're moving across town or across country, moving your home or your office, your personal moving concierge from Black Tie Moving will work with you to design a plan that perfectly fits your budget and needs. And they're available 24/7 to answer any questions you have. Give Black Tie Moving a call at 901-316-6196 or go to blacktiemoving.com/Memphis to get your personal, no-obligation quote from the moving experts at Black Tie Moving.
I'm Gary York. I'm the service director at Lexus of Memphis. Our service department wants to be more than just a place where you get your oil changed. We do glass repair, windshield replacement, recalibration of your camera and sonar systems, even wheel repair, tire replacement, all the things you would expect from a luxury automotive dealer. Please check out our website. You can schedule your appointment, check out our specials, hours of operation, or if you'd like to do it in person, please reach out to one of our associates at 901-271-5199.
Visit Frontier Western Store today for new shirts and boots. Frontier is your top Carhartt store in the Mid-South. There's thousands of in-stock shirts and jeans. They have the classic K87 pocket tee in every color they make, including new ones just released. Available small to 4X. Want new jeans? Frontier has you covered with super tough work denim by Carhartt. And you've got to check out their selection of Ariat jeans for men, women, and children. You'll love how easy it is to find the size and style you need. Have you seen Frontier's remodeled world-famous boot showroom? It continues to expand. New styles by Ariat just arrived, plus plenty of in-stock proven classics too. Whether you need work or dress boots, trust that Frontier's the place to come. See thousands of pairs of Ariat boots and thousands more by Dan Post, Corral, Durango, Rocky, Twisted X, and others. And Frontier's pricing is lower than online and chain stores, so you know just the local shop to visit. Frontier Western Store, 5880 Goodman Road in Olive Branch, and on the web at frontierwesternstore.com. Locally owned and operated since 1967.
Listen each and every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. and join Ottawild Presbyterian Church for worship. Ottawild is a PCUSA church located in Midtown Memphis.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Take me to the pilot of your soul. Take me to the pilot.
All right, we're going to pilot down to Baton Rouge. Our SEC historian, Ron Higgins, is standing by. Good morning, Ron. You got a big one this week. LSU to start with SEC play against Florida in Baton Rouge. And Billy Napier is on a real hot seat after losing to USF. And if you look at his schedule the rest of the way, it's the hardest in college football. Does Billy Napier escape the hot seat, or does it spiral even further after this weekend? Good morning.
Good morning. I think it's just going to get worse. I don't see really any way out of this. You don't lose to I'm not saying South Florida's a terrible team, but you don't lose the way you lost to them. And he does have a tough schedule. I don't know if it doesn't seem like it's getting any better. I mean, he rallied down the stretch last year a little bit, but none of that momentum carried over, really. It just didn't carry over to this year, which is puzzling, because usually if you finish pretty well and you supposedly have a decent recruiting season, you expect that momentum to pick back up. But it really didn't. So, yeah, I mean, this is a hard game for him. I mean, they said that. I mean, the only easy games on the schedule were supposedly were the first two, Long Island and South Florida. And Long Island was like a scrimmage, and then they played somebody that was decent, and they got beat on their home field. So, yeah, and you said you look at the schedule, at LSU, at Miami, home against Texas, at A&M. It's stupid. I mean, it really is. Even the last few games of the year, I mean, for the last five, I mean, Georgia, and then you play Kentucky, which is, hit or miss. At Ole Miss, Tennessee at home, Florida State at home.
Yeah.
It's an unbelievable schedule. I mean, I don't think he makes it out alive this year.
I don't see how he wins 6 games. I really don't.
No.
He's got a problem. That's for sure. And LSU, I don't know what to think about them. They were great at Clemson. I don't know how good Clemson is. Troy gave them a game. And then they played lackluster against Louisiana Tech. They won. I don't think it was ever in dire straits or in trouble, but they didn't play like they did against Clemson. Now they got to play a Florida team that knows it's got to win, or their coach is gone.
Yeah, but LSU isn't losing this game. They lost to Florida last year in Gainesville, and they know how bad they played. They're motivated by that. They're also it's a 6:45 kickoff in Tiger Stadium on a Saturday night, which is where they want to get their opponents in their home stadium on a Saturday night. Offensively, they didn't play well last week. Defensively, they've been fantastic defensively. That's not a problem. Offensively, they were just a little sloppy. I mean, they didn't get a running game going. Nussmeier was a little bit off in accuracy. Just didn't. He never felt like they ever got in rhythm offensively, and just like lack of attention to detail, little focus stuff. I mean, they had to call a timeout to avoid a delay of game on a field goal attempt. They got a delay of game on a punting attempt. I mean, they stupid stuff, stupid penalties, which those things are completely avoided. But I believe they'll be on their game this week. I thought they would be better last week. There was a 37.5 point spread last week, but I never knew LSU wouldn't come close to that. That's a pretty salty team. I think they're picked to win their league this year. But that Texas defense is pretty good. They play a 3-3-5, which is unusual to face. But LSU will be okay. Now, I don't see them losing to Florida. I think they're highly motivated.
I after Clemson, I thought they were a championship-type team, and they probably are. We'll see. We'll get more of it. When did they start playing conference games in week 3?
Well, I mean, probably a couple of years ago. I mean, I'm looking. Last year, I know Florida's third game was against A&M last year. LSU's third game was at South Carolina last year. So it's probably been 2 or 3 years now. They'll stick a game in. The last 3 years, starting 22, you'd get a conference game. Usually the third week of the season. Sometimes you got in week 2, but most time week 3.
It's actually smart of them for TV packaging to start it that way.
Well, I guarantee you that TV had influence on it.
Oh yeah. Well, and you've got great games this week. You got you guys with Florida, then you got Georgia and Tennessee. I mean that's pretty darn good. And Georgia on the road is a 3.5 point favorite in that game. What do you expect?
Yeah, I mean, well, of course, we're playing in Knoxville, which is a tough place to play. I don't know what quite to make of Tennessee. Well, yeah, really both teams yet. I mean, Tennessee hammered a Syracuse team that I thought would play better against last year. Georgia, they only had to play anybody. They handled Marshall, beat Austin Peay, so they didn't have anybody tremendous in their first two games. I'd say it's Georgia because I don't know how good Tennessee's defense is. I don't think right, at least at this point, it's not anywhere near last year's team.
No, but their offense is better.
No, their offense is better. The offense is putting up numbers. They are lighting the scoreboard up, and with a different quarterback, somebody who obviously likes to be coached and fits the system. So that's a dynamic here. Georgia has kind of been, I guess an ordinary offense, kind of ordinary, but their defense has been really good. I would say this could be a defensive game, but I don't know what that means anymore in college football. Is a defensive game mean, 28-24? Is that a defensive game? It just seems like it, but, that something like 28-24 would be like a defensive game these days because, if you want an offensive shootout, it'll take you like SMU last week in Baylor.
Right, that was crazy. Yeah,
and most people in the 40s. That to me, that's the offensive shootout. But 28-24 these days is probably a defensive game.
Arkansas is in Oxford to play Ole Miss. The Rebels are 7.5-point favorites. I actually thought it might be more, but Arkansas is putting points on the board against inferior teams. Yeah,
this is an interesting game because because Arkansas has really played really nobody. Alabama, A&M, and Arkansas State. Arkansas State has their years where they're kind of salty, but it's I don't know. I just think Ole Miss is they're still feeling their way through it. I think their offense is good enough to beat Arkansas, but I just never know. You never know defensively with Ole Miss what you're going to get. But they won at Kentucky. They hung in and won there. And then again a week 2 SEC game, and Kentucky can be tough at times. They hung in and won there. They didn't play great, but they played good enough to win. And now they got their next. They've got their next 4 games at home. Ole Miss has 4 straight at home. Arkansas, Tulane, LSU a week off, and Washington State. So their next 4 at home. So these are games. At least these next 2, you got to win to get some momentum going to play LSU.
I would have to think they've played Kentucky. They won at Kentucky, so you would have to think they've been much more battle tested than what Arkansas has seen, and I think there's an advantage in that. Last SEC game, Vandy at South Carolina. Vanderbilt, wow, what they did to Virginia Tech was impressive. They got a great quarterback. I think their coach may be the most underrated in the SEC, and they're going to take on a team that a lot of people thought would be in the SEC championship picture. Still may be. It's a good matchup. Now it is in Columbia.
Yeah, I think it was a great matchup. Clark Lee, Vandy coach, Shane Beamer of South Carolina. Both those guys at the end of last year, I thought had the best chance to win Coach of the Year in the SEC. Of course, Clark won it. I think I voted Shane's way, but I think either one you can't go wrong. They both got really playmaking quarterbacks. Lenora Stellars from South Carolina, who people consider the second best quarterback in the league behind Garrett Nussmeier of LSU. But let me tell you, Diago Pavi of Vanderbilt, he's just a feisty little dude who just makes plays and refuses to let his team lose. And I think he is absolutely the heart and soul of this Vandy team. 6 foot 207, and just like a little bowed up dude who he just makes plays. It ain't pretty. It's not pretty. It's not a classic quarterback. But some of the young guys out and makes plays and wins games and inspires his teammates, and that's all you can ask out of a quarterback.
Yeah, no, I love the guy. I love Clark Lee. I think he's terrific. I don't think they're going to win this weekend, but it wouldn't shock me if they did. The line's only 5.5. That's why we play the games, my friends. Ron Higgins, our SEC historian. Thank you much. We will talk next Tuesday.
Yes, sir. We'll see you.
Our guy, Ron Higgins, sitting in the Family Leisure studio. A reminder, they're clearing out the warehouse until probably the end of this month now. That sale to clear it out on patio stuff, it's still going on, and you can get up to 60% off. You can get special financing. They've got Polywood furniture. All that stuff is 20 to 30% off. If you buy a patio table, you get a free umbrella. Get it while it's happening. Go on over to I-40 and Wooden Road. Tell them we sent you, and tell them you want to clear out the warehouse at Family Leisure. We're back in a minute. Jonah Dillon joins us. We talk Tiger football. They got an early morning at Troy. They escaped a poor first half in Atlanta. We talk about it all with Jonah in just a minute.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Let's up your life with Let's.
Surprise the family with a new club car and experience the best golf cart in the industry. A new golf cart is perfect for cruising the neighborhood, enjoying yourself at the lake, turning heads on the course, and just having something reliable to use around the yard. Lads has you covered with new and used golf cars. The new Club Car Onward, available in electric or gas and a variety of colors and features. Lads goes beyond the green. Whitten and I-40 or online at lads.net.
Listen up, Rebel fans. Your next winning drive starts at Landers Ford in Collierville. Their game plan is simple. Find you the most savings possible. Make a trade, lower your payments, or let them buy your vehicle even if you don't buy from them. That's how you keep moving the chains. Just like the Grove on game day. Fans all across the Mid-South keep coming back to the #1 Ford dealership in Greater Memphis. See them today in Collierville or online at LandersFordMemphis.com. When you own a Landers Ford, you get the support of a certified service tech with the Landers Ford Remote Service Experience Program. They pick it up, drop it off, or fix it on the spot, so you're never left watching from the sidelines. To finish the drive, the iconic Landers Easy Pass always brings more for your trade and the biggest discounts to put you in victory formation. And now, straight from the 1977 Ole Miss football team that took down #1 ranked Notre Dame, the final snap of the day from Landers Ford President Don Kitchens.
If it doesn't say Landers, you paid too much. As reported on Ford's 2024 Total New Vehicle Retail Sales Report in Memphis Market.
Don't miss the 53rd Annual Pink Palace Crafts Fair at Audubon Park, September 26th through the 28th. Bring the whole family and enjoy 3 days of food, live music, and of course, shopping for one-of-a-kind arts and crafts from across the Mid-South. It's a Memphis tradition you don't want to miss. The Pink Palace Crafts Fair, September 26th through the 28th at Audubon Park. Sponsored by First Horizon Foundation, Friends of the Pink Palace, and your friends at Sports 56. When life crashes into you, literally, NST Law doesn't just show up with a briefcase. They show up with heart. They sit with families after devastating wrecks, look them in the eye, and say, "We've got you." No scripts, no legal jargon, just real people fighting for real justice. If someone turned your life upside down, NST helps you stand back up. They've been doing this for over 35 years and have won billions for their clients. NST is the way to go. Call 683-7000 or go to nstlaw.com.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Jonah Dillon writes for the Commercial Appeal. He's the beat writer of Tiger football. He joins us now. Let's do a quick recap of what we saw in Atlanta against Georgia State. It was not the prettiest of first halves. Adjustments were made, and the Tigers shut them out in the second half and won going away by 22. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it was definitely a tale of two halves. The first half, like you said, there were a lot of issues. Memphis was winning at the end of the first half, which was kind of surprising. And at that point, you felt like, okay, as long as they turn it around, they'll be okay here. And they came out in the second half, and the Tigers played really well. They pretty much dominated them on both sides of the ball, kind of fixed the problems that we saw in the first half. Now, there are still issues that have to be corrected moving forward against a higher level of competition, but ultimately then they end up with a 38-16 win. The pick six with 11 seconds left adds to the score. I think it's fair to say that the game was not, the scoreline doesn't really tell the story. It was closer, and there were real problems in the first half. For Memphis, there are real moments of adversity, but ultimately the Tigers get a win and they're undefeated.
Since you mentioned DeMarco Ward and his second straight pick six, I've been doing this a long time. I've been covering college football since 71 as a student. I don't think I have ever seen in consecutive weeks one guy have back-to-back pick sixes. I think there were a couple Bobby McCain may have had in his career, maybe more than two, but never in consecutive weeks. Have you ever seen that before?
No, it's a bizarre stat. We're wondering how long it's going to continue for. I asked Ryan Zorfield about it after the game on Saturday, and he said that DeMarco Ward is his new favorite player, and if he does it again, he might show up to a press conference in a DeMarco Ward jersey. So you got that to look forward to maybe. But, yeah, it's a bizarre stat, especially for somebody, when he had the pick six in the opener against Chattanooga, that was his first snap of the game. Like, we weren't talking about somebody who was even expected to be like an every down type player on defense. So he managed to pull out both those plays without really being in the mix that much. A kind of remarkable story of the first couple of weeks. Obviously, we're not expecting it to continue, that streak, but we weren't expecting it to continue for the first week, so who knows?
Well, he, by the way, on the postgame show proclaimed that there was going to be a third one this week. So let's let's wait. I give the coaches a lot of credit in this game, and I will let you know. You're aware that we do these production meetings with the two coordinators and with Ryan every Thursday. And in that pregame meeting, Ryan told us that this would be a game of adjustments because they didn't know who the quarterback was going to be for sure, and they were preparing actually for 4 quarterbacks. They didn't know about their defensive fronts because they kept switching them, and they thought that they were holding out on some things. They were a blitzing team, and they didn't blitz that much in the first game that they had played against Ole Miss. Obviously, they were outmanned in that game. And so there were so many unknowns. He thought it would be an adjustment at halftime kind of game, and they came up with the big adjustments. They blitzed more. They picked up blitzes. They quit the bus in the defensive backfield. I mean, they did a good job of righting the ship.
Yeah, and I think defensively, the adjustments, it was clear what happened. I think on offense, they wore down that Georgia State front. I think that was part of it in the second half. Defensively, Memphis played a lot better in the second half, and a lot of the problems in the first half were very correctable. It was like confusion, kind of watching the game, and there's guys wide open in the middle of the field every play. Things that can be corrected, you have the personnel to be able to do it. They got a lot more pressure on the quarterbacks. Obviously, Georgia State, TJ Finley started. He was 10 for 10. Then he got injured, went out, and eventually came back. In the second half, Memphis got a lot more pressure on the quarterbacks. They didn't let them get out of the pocket, and that really changed the game, especially with what Georgia State was trying to do offensively. So, yeah, I mean, we've seen it with Memphis the past couple of years. They've been pretty good at adjusting at halftime, especially in games where they were going to be unknowns. And they did a great job of it in this game because, like I said, when they came out after the half, the game was really never competitive from the first drive of the third quarter.
You wrote an interesting article a day ago or so about the Tigers' receiving room where in the first game, Lewis threw to 10 different guys. In the second game, 9 different guys. I think the most catches anybody has is Hawkins with 6. There's no star, but there's a lot of good guys. We haven't even seen C.J. Smith catch a ball yet. He was the guy that had all the speed in the spring. There is this Cortez Braham combination from a year ago at Nevada, and he caught a touchdown pass in the game against Chattanooga. But there's no, at this point, established guy, good or bad.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the question right now of, like, do you want – and we asked Ryan Silverfield about this at his press conference yesterday of, like, do you want there to be a top receiver? He said, look, if you have a top receiver, then the defense knows they're going to clue in on that one guy. We want to make them have to think about multiple things. At the same time, you're talking about 8 receivers who are playing. I think that's more than you would ideally like. You want to be able to have go-to guys because you want guys to be able to get into a rhythm. Like you said, 6 catches across 2 games, Jamari Hawkins, and he's ahead of everyone. He had that 50-yard completion on their first offensive snap against Georgia State, so that's what's kind of putting his numbers above everybody else. But there's a lot of guys in that room you could point to and say, this guy could be playing more. Brady Cluse being one of them. I think he only had 1 catch on Saturday. Cortez Braham, who still, to me, looks like the most likely candidate to be the number 1 receiver, given his history with Brendan Lewis, his history as a college football player, and productivity. C.J. Smith is another wild card, right? We saw him play a little bit on Saturday, but he didn't have any catches or I don't think any targets.
I don't think he was targeted at all. He was,
yeah.
And the thing that was interesting to me was he was in like in red zone stuff, as opposed to a guy who could stretch the field because we know he's got the speed, and that's what he did in the spring game.
Yeah, and you're also thinking with him, I mean, they're doing a lot of short passes. He's the kind of guy you'd think, let's get him the ball on a wide receiver screen and see what he can do, those types of things. So I think we would expect to see more of that moving forward. But again, I don't think that you want to go into these games later in the season when you're playing a high level of competition and be, 5 minutes before the game saying which of these 8 guys is going to be our top receiver today. Like, I think that you would want to narrow it down a little bit. And again, there's options there and there's reason to believe in a lot of these guys, but we haven't seen them do that yet, and so that's going to be a story moving forward. I mean, Sutton Smith has been one of their top receivers, right, as a running back. We knew that he had that ability, but again, you want to see somebody, especially, there's going to be plays this season where it's going to be 3rd and 7, and you're going to have to find somebody on a crossing route or someone to find the soft spot in the zone on a key play, and right now I don't know who that person would be.
We've seen 2 guys that have been consistently good that are the stars on the offense, right? And that's Brandon Lewis, whose accuracy rate has been surprising. Now, they haven't really thrown that many long balls, but he's been on the money for the most part. And then there's Sutton Smith with Duozier out, and we don't know how long he'll be out for. Sutton Smith is doing the consistent job. And I can remember when Sutton Smith first came, I promise you, I listened to both Cramsey and Silverfield say, this guy can be Kenny Gainwell. And we hadn't seen it yet. Of course, he got injured last year, but he's got that promise.
Yeah, he's one of those guys, and I think the best example on Saturday was the punt return. Like, when he gets the ball, you just have to stop and see what he's going to do, especially when he's got space, because he has an ability in space to do things that nobody else on the team can do, and frankly, not a lot of people in the country can do. Now, the question for Sutton Smith is, like, can he turn 0-yard runs into 4-yard runs? Right? Can he consistently, if he's going to carry the ball 15 times a game, you're not going to have space every play to hit a home run, to score a touchdown, right? You've got to be able to do those types of plays. And if you're going to be the featured running back, you're going to have to do that. So I think that's the key for him. Obviously, Greg Duozier can do a lot of those things too. So when he's in there, when he's back, it's going to be really, really difficult to defend that run game, especially with what Brandon Lewis can do. But you can't be one-dimensional, right? So if there is no downfield passing threat, I think you're going to see a lot of defenses start to clue in on that and just try to shut down the run game, and then you're going to end up in a situation, again, where you're going to have to throw the ball down the field at least to keep the defenses on it.
Yeah, and that's the question. Can Lewis do that? Because they haven't really shown anything like that yet.
Yeah, and they haven't had to. And I think what we've learned so far from 2 games is that this is the bread and butter of this new offense, is running the ball and doing that until they make you stop. And even on Saturday, you saw them keep running the ball even when it wasn't working as much because they knew they were going to try to wear them down. And they feel good about the offensive line, which is a huge positive, obviously. But I just think there's going to be games later in the season where it's not going to work, and you're going to have to find a different way to succeed offensively, especially when you're going up against some of these kind of high-powered offenses in the conference. But again, look, I don't think they're going to show that stuff until they have to, and I don't think they're going to force themselves to, play against type unless they really feel like it's necessary. And so we're going to have to save that discussion, I think, until it becomes a necessity later in the season.
And then this weekend, it's a tough game. It's become tougher because we saw how good Troy was at Clemson this past weekend. And then there's the circumstances where you don't stay in Troy. You stay in Montgomery, about an hour away, and you've got an 11 a.m. game because of television, which means you got an early wake-up call, and you've played a 3 o'clock game, you've played a 6 o'clock game, and now you got to play this thing where you're going to get up at 5 in the morning.
Yeah, that's what Ryan sort of saying yesterday. I think he said 5:30 or 5:15 wake-up time. Obviously going to be a unique environment. That Troy team, we saw them play last year. They didn't play very well. That game was not competitive. Been a little interested to see. Obviously, I know they played Clemson close last week, but Clemson, kind of similar to what we saw at Memphis, Georgia State, they figured it out after halftime and won the game. The line is pretty close for that game. I saw it move to Memphis only favored by 4.5 points. Again, if you watched Memphis and Troy last year, I wasn't coming into the season expecting this to be a super competitive game. We've obviously seen Memphis have issues last week in the first half against a team that the Tigers were clearly more talented than and better than. So we'll see how it goes. It's a weird sort of trap game also because we've got Arkansas coming up next week at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium, and a lot of people have been looking forward to that game, obviously not only this week, but kind of the whole offseason. And so you've got to get through this kind of weird road test before you get to that marquee non-conference game.
I think Clemson did the Tigers a big favor by not trouncing Troy. Because and there was a rain delay in that, a lightning delay. I wonder if that had an effect on the game at all or not. But if Memphis looks at that, and I'm sure they're all looking at that tape, and they're going, whoa, we better pay attention here. I was actually thinking the Tigers might not be favorites in this game, but they are 4.5-point favorites in the latest line. But I think it was good for Memphis that Troy played Clemson so close.
Yeah, it definitely was. Look, like I said before, we watched this team play last year. They really were not competitive at all. This is not John Summerall's Troy. Now, maybe they're going to turn it around, and this team is going to be really good this year. Obviously, it's really early. We don't know. I'm not sure that I believe that Troy is as good as they showed in that first half against Clemson. But like you said, perception-wise, which is big when it comes to these things, it does have a lot of people talking. And if Memphis beats Troy convincingly, there's going to be people, who are going to say, well, Memphis, they went on the road and they beat them convincingly, and even Clemson couldn't do that at home. And then you're going to have that narrative. So it definitely does help them. I mean, it would have helped Memphis even more if Clemson had lost that game. So yeah, I think it is interesting. And look, it's a road game, and it's a weird environment, like you said, with the situation of having to wake up super early, and so there's going to be a lot of stuff that goes into this.
He is Jonah Dillon, beat writer for the Commercial Appeal of the Tiger football team. Thank you, my friend. We'll see you in Montgomery.
Yep, sounds good.
We got it. Jonah Dillon from the Commercial Appeal. He's brought to you by Miramichi. Miramichi, 25 minutes away from my driveway in East Memphis. By the way, Thursday, that's the best day for tea times because it's the cheapest rates of the week. And it's open on Mondays. They used to be closed. Now they're full service, just like they are when it comes to golf. They got the best practice facilities of any public course I've seen anywhere. Really, you can learn the game there. They got this great clubhouse, great service, great food. And then there's the golf experience. You can go back 7,000 yards. You can play it up at 5,000 yards. You got 5 different tee boxes to choose from. Here's the one thing that's always a constant: beauty. The golf course is gorgeous. It's not in Millington, folks. It's in Woodstock. Go check it out. Tell them we sent you. I promise you'll thank us later. That's the complete golf experience in Woodstock. It's Miramichi Golf. We will have to say goodbye because time is up. But John Harden's right around the corner. We're back tomorrow. Dennis Philippi, Joe Dank, and a surprise. We'll let you know tomorrow. See you then.